Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 18th of January, comes to you from London. And we start, as always, by looking at the dollar index. The dollar just recovering slightly the last couple of days, really not much of a bounce here, and we are still below that low we saw in September last year. So, interestingly, we might well find this 91.40 area becomes what was support, now might become resistance. Key thing is we have activated these downside targets. The dollar is just looking less good than it has, and we see here the euro also looking strong. Whilst we hold this 120 level, that's good news for the euro. And we've activated upside targets here into the 150s, so very significant. But the short-term target is 124. We do have a little bit of a pullback at the moment, and we are just coming under the cloud on the prices, so just watch that. Japanese yen, we see here that we are just turning bullish on the dollar above the cloud here, and looking at the sterling chart, that's a clear recovery through the dollar, that dollar weakness showing through. However, we do have still these downside targets hanging over us, so it's quite key. A new upside target of 145 to the dollar, so that's also significant. Looking at sterling against the euro, sterling's appreciated quite sharply the last 24 hours, and we're seeing it over 113. First time we've seen that for a few weeks now. And if we look at sterling, it's the Swiss franc looking strong, and against the Australian dollar, fairly flat at around 173, meaning sterling and the Aussie dollar are rising pretty much in unison. Bitcoin recovered quite sharply off its low yesterday. We were at about 9,500 at one point, and we are finding quite good support here on the daily cloud chart. So we are seeing that where we are seeing the support there on the cloud. The S&P 500, we are bullish still. Markets looking very strong. NASDAQ actually recovering again yesterday, and the Dow pushing to new all-time highs at 26,100. Many people now looking for 30,000 on the Dow, so really very significant moves there. Amazing to think that just over a year ago we were at below 20,000, so we're seeing a 50% rise on those blue chip stocks in the US. The Russell 2000 recovering yesterday after fall-offs the day before, and the futures down very slightly this morning on the S&P, and the NASDAQ E-mini just down slightly as well. FTSE is lower this morning, just coming below the cloud on the price. So it does look a little bit weaker there, stronger sterling having an impact on blue chips, but also the mid-caps 250 index is also just coming off the top as well. The DAX is up slightly this morning, up 0.5%, but we are just again coming below the cloud on prices there too. And the Nikkei just looking a little bit stronger weaker off the top with that stronger yen of late, but we are just seeing here we are still holding all three bull trends there, bullish short-term, medium-term and long-term. Hang Seng looking strong. Shanghai market also looking stronger as we push and break the November high with yesterday's move, so that's significant. And the Indian market really pushing much higher as well, so looking very strong indeed. The Australian market just pushing lower there, the stronger Aussie dollar having an impact. And Brent crude, we start looking at commodities. Brent crude, although it has nudged this $70 level, now just looks like it's coming off the top a little bit there, so just turning into a bearish trend short term. 67.77 downside targets at about 2.2% downside. Looking at WTI, we're much lower there as well, and US NatGas is breaking the 220 level, 222 at the moment, so that is moving higher than the November high, but it's hard to say at this stage that that's a breakout. We're looking bullish in the short term. We've got targets of 334 and 337, and this medium term target of 414, 419. If we certainly saw NatGas above $4, that would be very bullish for the price. Copper prices stabilizing, but still bearish below the cloud on the short-term chart, and we have activated a downside target to $300, which is 6% downside. If we take a look at some of the softs, we see here cocoa had a big jump yesterday, quite strong, and up again stronger this morning. Coffee also strong but bearish below the cloud. Cocoa, of course, is still bearish in the medium and long term. We're seeing cotton up reasonably strongly. But sugar down, and sugar still falling there. And if we take a look at gold, gold fell back quite sharply yesterday, putting us in a bear trend back into the mid 1320s. We've got a downside target of 1315, but the targets of 1349 and 1359 are intact. We haven't impacted these upside columns on the 0.5% and 1% charts. And of course, if we get a rise off here, that gives us another upside target. We almost need to pull back in order to give us a buying thrust. Medium and long-term charts still look pretty bullish. Silver, similar to gold, has just pulled back a bit. And the medium and long-term chart's still not quite as bullish. US Treasury yields hit 2.6% for the first time. That puts us back to the where we were when Trump gained power in late 2016. We're breaking this resistance level at 260, 261, and it's putting us higher for US Treasury yields. We've got targets 279, 2.57, 261 was the target that was given, now being met, and of course this long-term target of 310 on 10-year yields. So we are just seeing yields now just starting to gradually creep up, and it definitely looks like this 150s level that we saw back in 2016 was the low. With the end of quantitative easing, we expect to see yields increasing, inflation rising in the US. Apple up quite sharply yesterday, just nudging new highs again, so that's making the charts look better there. We do still have an 18% upside target on the long-term chart, and short-term targets of 2.5% and 6%. Google also pushing higher. Amazon not as strong yesterday, but still looking very bullish on all three charts. And Facebook is actually the chart that's not looking so good on the short term at the moment, but no clear downside targets. And the medium and long-term charts do still have long-term targets. Microsoft pushing higher still. So that's looking pretty good too. So US tech looking better than it was a couple of days ago. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.